Okay. So now coming to American economy. Unless you understand the policies of US government, you cannot understand world economy. Because a slight change in the policy of the American government will have its impact everywhere throughout the world. In India as well, where toe to bottom, sir se leke pair tak. So these things, they matter. And economy is such a powerful thing that you can remember early 90s or 1989, superpower like USSR got disintegrated into 15 countries without firing a bullet. And the same, it is likely to take place in case of US economy. US economy is not in good shape. Good shape? Yesterday I discussed that because other countries' currencies, they have depreciated, leading to American economy becoming high-cost economy. High-cost economy. Now in the recent times, Americans, they are planning, just like India, they will try to promote Make in USA. Make in USA. They think, is it possible for American government to promote Make in USA? Because their economy has become high-cost economy. This is one of the first points you have to note it down. America has to rely on other countries, those countries whose currency has become weaker against dollar, and no way American can promote Make in USA. Okay? Because of that, it has become a net exporting country. Means American exports are very low as compared to their imports. Exports are low and imports are very high. Okay, now come to the May 2011. Things were going very well, but problem started when the Gulf War started way back in early 90s. And Americans' war expenses continued, and not only they lost financially, but also casualty was massive. In Afghanistan only, more than 2,500 American troops, they were killed. Now what happened in the May 2011? Okay. American government realized that in their treasury, only that much of money is left, which is sufficient to run the country for 7 days. It means government was left with nothing. Only that much of money was left, so that is sufficient to meet the expenses of the country only for 1 week. After that, what will happen? Government will be left with no money. So all the payments will be stopped. Moreover, when the people are not getting any money, so what about their demand? Their demand is going to come down. Not only that, government's own expenditure is going to come down. So that situation is called shutdown of American economy. And these things, they are taking place on regular basis. American economy was going to be shut down. Government is left with no money. Let us say simplification again. When American government is left with no money, government's own expenditure is going to decrease, or it is going to be stopped. And moreover, when the people of USA, they are not being paid, what will happen to their demand? Their demand is also going to come down. So as a result, the American market, what will happen to their aggregate demand? Aggregate demand of the American market is going to increase or decrease? Demand is going to fall drastically. Demand is going to fall drastically. To go fall faster. Okay. And fall in demand will lead to what? Recession or simply mandi. This is the problem with the Western world, particularly USA, that time to time they face the problem of recession, mandi, and nothing is worse than recession. In the earlier classes, I discussed the problems of underdeveloped country like India and those of developed country as well. So our problem is never of demand, it is of supply. And their problem is not of supply, it is of demand. And their problem is more serious. So many times I told you that demand is the key. If you want to keep economy alive, you will have to keep demand alive. The day demand gets saturated or demand starts falling, economy is going to collapse. So it was confirmed that American economy is on the verge of collapse. Recession has to come because government is left with no money. Now, in this situation, what governments normally do, particularly American government cannot stop making payment. Their economy will collapse. Then what happens to meet the expenditure so that economy remains in the survival mode? Governments used to borrow through issue of bonds. Bonds are issued, bonds we have discussed, loans are taken, and then expenses are met. And this power in USA, it is vested with the president. Presidential rule is there. So American president, in order to survive, had to go for borrowing from their central bank. That is called Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, but when president of USA 2011 May, you can tell me, I don't just forget the name of the president. Who was the president then? I hope it was either Clinton, maybe Clinton or maybe Barack Obama. ठीक है, वो check करके जरा बता दो. So when American president decided to borrow through issue of bond, actually Obama was the president. Yes, okay. Okay. I also think Obama was there because 5 years Biden, 5 years Trump, so 10 years. Okay, it was Obama. Okay. Okay. So when President Obama decided to borrow through issue of bond to meet the expenditure so that recession can be avoided, one problem came. One problem came. See, what was that problem? And that problem, it is a hot topic right now in USA. See, this problem, till 1917, long ago, 107 years ago, okay, American president had got unlimited borrowing power. Unlimited borrowing power means what? American president till 1917 had got unlimited borrowing power. It means it can borrow up to any extent. I hope this point is clear, yes or no? Till 1917, American president had got unlimited borrowing power. It means it can borrow up to any extent without any limit through issue of bond. But in the year 1917, what happened? American Congress, I mean to say the Senate, okay, passed a bill and came with the concept of debt ceiling. Came with the concept of debt ceiling. A ceiling was fixed. Okay. Not more than this, president can borrow. If the ceiling is touched, president now cannot borrow further. Before president can borrow, resolution has to be passed through the parliament. There it is called Senate. Limit has to be increased, and that then only president can borrow. I hope this point is clear, yes or no? 1917, after passing a resolution, ceiling was fixed. This is known to be debt ceiling. Once you cannot borrow more than this limit, and if this limit is raised, president cannot borrow. President cannot go beyond his power. President will be subject to impeachment. Okay. And time to time, what the American Congress does, passing the resolution, limits are increased, then president used to borrow. So 2011 May, America was under threat of shutdown, and American president decided to borrow. At that time, the ceiling was 13.1 trillion US dollar. That was equal to 95% of their GDP. This was the ceiling. May 2017, not 2000, 2011. May 2011, when president decided to borrow, so this was the ceiling, 13.1 $1 trillion US dollar, and that was equal to 95% of the GDP of USA. I hope till here things are clear, because step by step I will have to ask from you whether you are able to understand, yes or no. This is the last hurdle. After that, things are going to be very easy for you. Okay? The quality of a study is going to increase manifold. The newspaper you are spending nowadays 2 hours, it is purely quantitative. From tomorrow, you will have to spend only half an hour. Seeing the headline, below that what is written, you can easily understand. Okay, so this was the limit, and already this much of borrowing took place. Means limit was touched. Already itni borrowing ho chuki thi, means now president cannot borrow. The now ball was in the court of the Senate members. Senate members, they had to pass the resolution, increase the limit, then only president can borrow further and the recession can be avoided. But Senate members, they refused to pass the bill. They refused to pass the bill. What they said? It was bound to happen. For the last 20 years, we are making hue and cry, cut down the war expenses, but you turn a deaf ear. So this was bound to happen. We are not going to pass the resolution. We are not going to increase the limit. Okay. So it was confirmed that America is going to be in deep crisis. Recession is going to set in American market. This point is clear, yes or no? Senate members, they refused to pass the resolution and raise the limit. Raise the limit? Yes, because they were very angry, particularly with George Bush, very aggressive president. And American war expenses increased manifold. So America was in deep trouble. So now recession is going to take place in American market. And why it is said that when US gets cold, the whole world starts sneezing. America को जब जुकाम होता है तो पूरी दुनिया क्यों छींकती है? Let us see how the things are working. Because when USA is in crisis, it will have its impact everywhere, including India. But how the things are working, let us see one by one. And please focus what I'm teaching. Okay? So when America is in recession, the first casualty will be their 3 major trading partners: Japan, European Union, and China. First impact will be on 3 major trading partners of USA, Japan, China, and European Union. Let us say Japan. 40% of the electronic goods produced in Japan, they are meant for American market. And America is in deep crisis, recession is there, mandi is there. So what will happen to Japan? Because demand has collapsed in US market, and 40% of the electronic goods produced in Japan, they are consumed in American market, and America is in crisis. So Japan will be facing the problem of surplus. I hope this point is clear, yes or no? Japan will be facing the problem of surplus. 40%, yes, Abhishek, you are 100% correct. Recession, it will bring recession into Japan as well. 40% means massive, okay? Now, Indian people, because electronic goods meant for American market, they will remain in Japan only. So Japan will face the problem of surplus. Now, Indian people, they think differently. Bharat log alag sochte hain. Some people, they think that it will be good for Japan. The price of television will decrease and everyone will be having color TV in every room of his house, isn't it? Already unke hare ghar mein TV hai. Don't think this way. So Japan will face the problem of surplus, and surplus is going to bring recession in Japan. America mein mandi ka matlab, Japan mein bhi mandi. Deficiency is bad, but surplus is worst. These lines, this line, I have told you many times. And I hope you are comfortable with those lines. Okay. The same will be the picture where of the European Union. Small countries, European countries, they are very small, but their production level is very high. So whatever Japan has started facing, the same will be faced by European Unions, isn't it? Yes or no? जो प्रॉब्लम जापान में होगा, यूरोपियन यूनियन will face the same problem. There also you will have recession. Now what about China? Because with China, America has a trade deficit. Chinese surplus is very high, 375 billion US dollar. That was the trade surplus of China with USA last year. So you must be thinking that China is a big country. So Chinese domestic market is ready to absorb those surplus. Do you think so? Do you think Chinese domestic market is ready to absorb that much of surplus? No. Because of Chinese domestic market is lacking demand. Now this is the basic difference between India and China. Chinese are very powerful on external front. Their exports are more than import, but they are very weak on domestic front. Unlike China, India is weak on external front because our exports are lagging behind import, but India is very strong on domestic front. Because inside India, I don't think ever we will be able to say surplus. Domestic market, domestic consumer market of India, it is very big and it is growing at a very, very fast rate. Now, why Chinese domestic market is unable to absorb that surplus? Because of its own policy, one-child policy. Till 2010, China strictly went for one-child policy. Let us say the example. Now, father and mother, they belong to two different families. And in the next generation, if one child is replacing these two people, so this is called rate of substitution. Rate of substitution. So two people, they are being replaced by only one person. So if the rate of substitution is 2:1, so what will happen to future population of China? It will increase, decrease, or it will remain the same. Yes. Till 2010, China strictly went for one-child policy. So if the rate of substitution is 2:1, it is going to decrease. Okay, that's very good. ऐसे ही मेरे साथ पढ़िए, ज़्यादा अच्छा होगा. Now come to second case. If a rate of substitution is 2:2, 2:2, rate of substitution 2:2, then what will happen to future generation? Hemil has said, okay, same, okay, सबने same कहा, okay, and this answer, I think, it is known to UPSC people. See how smartly they move. Okay, you may be correct. Overall, you are correct. But in the examination, you are not correct. Because here, when you say कि it will be the same, it means you are assuming कि mortality rate is 0. That is practically not possible. I hope you are getting my words. If you say कि population will be the same, so you assume that mortality rate is 0. So that is practically not possible. I hope you got the point. So for mortality, we make some provision. In order for population to remain constant, the rate of substitution has to be 2:2.1. 2:2.1. 0.1 we have provided. We have made the provision for mortality. I hope you got the point or not. So if the rate of substitution is 2:2.1, not 2, then the population is going to remain the same. And if it is 2:3, then population is going to increase. Now Chinese are very weak on domestic front. So because of their own child policy, till 2010, Chinese strictly went for one child policy. Then 2000, China realized this threat. Once USA is in crisis, so they are going to be in deep crisis because their domestic market is not ready to absorb the surplus. Not only if USA is in crisis, so other European countries also, they will have the same problem. So from theirs also, China has trade surplus. यूरोप के भी जितने कंट्री हैं सबके साथ चाइना का ट्रेड सरप्लस है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर वन. कैन यू गेस दैट? ओनली वन यूरोपियन कंट्री इज देयर विथ होम चाइना हैज गॉट ट्रेड डेफिसिट. यस, पावर हाउस ऑफ यूरोप इज जर्मनी. वेरी गुड अभिषेक. तो जर्मनी द ओनली एक्सेप्ट. तो बाकी यूरोप के जितने भी देश हैं ना, सबके साथ चाइना का ट्रेड सरप्लस है. So when America is in crisis, the entire European Union will be in crisis. So not only surplus will be because of the American crisis, because of the European market crisis, because of the crisis of Japanese market, China will be in deep trouble. China realized this threat. This threat, let me ask one question. War is taking place on economic front. Last year, total trade in between China and USA was worth $600 billion. $600 billion. But the balance of trade is totally in favor of China. Chinese export to USA was worth $475 billion US, but Chinese import from USA, it was only $125 billion. So China has a trade surplus of around 350 billion US dollar. Now let me ask one question. Practically that is not possible. Suppose Trump's come to the power and putting a completely ban on the Chinese goods. Who will suffer more? America or China? Americans, who will suffer more? This is my question. Both will suffer. But who will suffer more? China or USA? China has a trade surplus of $350 billion. Chinese economy will simply collapse. Where this massive production will be consumed? $350 billion. It is almost equal to the size of few economies of the world. Just below the size of the GDP of Pakistan. China will face the problem of surplus. Is that clear now? Americans will also suffer, but not that much, because there are many countries who can replace China in the American market. And those countries who will have the maximum benefit, they are India, Philippines, South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, etc. So they are waiting for these things. Okay, let us replace China into the American market. So Americans, instead of China, can buy from many countries. And nowadays, India is doing very well. Make in India has remained successful. So it is not going to hurt Americans very, very badly. ऐसे भी in the malls of USA, Chinese goods, they are being replaced by goods which are made in India. So Americans will be hurt very less, but the China is going to collapse because the allies of USA, all the European countries, except for Germany, with whom China has a trade surplus. So when America is dictating the term, America will take some action against China. So rest of the European countries also, they are going to do the same. They cannot make Americans angry. So China is going to suffer more. Is that clear now? So one slight change in the policy of the American government, it is sufficient to destroy the Chinese economy. ऐसा नहीं हुआ है. But why Chinese economy is in a serious condition? Because India's Make in India program has become very, very successful. Indian goods, they are cheaper as well as they are of better quality than those of Chinese goods. And yes, in the malls of USA, I told you, Chinese goods, they are being replaced by goods from India. Automatically, these things, they are taking place. So China realized this threat. It can be a major threat. So then China made some changes in the population policy in 2013. थोड़ा बहुत चेंज किया. Chinese government said if father and mother both are alone in their family. Condition was if father and mother both are alone in their family, then only that family can go for two-child policy. Little bit liberal, but subject to condition. If father and mother both should be alone in their family. चलो थोड़ा सा तो liberal हुआ. Then 2016, further changes in the policy. Chinese government said कि father और mother, यानी father और mother दोनों में से कोई एक भी अगर अपने फैमिली में अकेला होगा, then that family can go for two-child policy. Little bit liberal. दोनों में अंतर क्या है? The first time 2013, father and mother both, and 2016, father or mother. Can you find the difference between these two? 2013 versus 2016, yes or no? Yes. Then in the year 2019, Chinese made this policy universal. Any family can go for two-child policy. China has realized, and nowadays, China is encouraging their people to go for more and more child. दो नहीं, तीन पे जाइए, चार पे जाइए. Now China has realized the significance of population.